Hello and welcome to the Who the Fuck is in the Mirror podcast. I'm Angela Spooner, your host, emotional intelligence guide, trauma-informed coach, yoga instructor, confident, badass single mom of 3 amazing children, and founder of Unabashedly You. This podcast is all about using books, analogies, and metaphors to dive deep into who you really are to yourselves, not just as parents or some fictional version others made you out to be, right? But who the fuck you are. I want you to find your confidently badass, secure version of you that you lost along the way, or maybe you never even had in the first place because you were busy with everyone and everything else. Does that sound about right? So how about we get into the science of why we are a bunch of fucked up individuals who look in the mirror and don't even recognize the person that's staring back. Join me in the best journey you'll ever experience. Why, you may ask? Because it is the journey to transform your self-doubt, insecurity, and overall dysfunctional brain into self-aware, badass confidence and understanding. I hope you're as excited as I am because I cannot wait to get into this.
Welcome to the carnival. Welcome to the carnival.
Hello and welcome to Who the Fuck is in the Mirror. How's everybody doing today? Not that you guys are answering because it's recorded. But anyway, I want you to kind of sit for a second and just allow yourself to think of how you're doing today. What are you feeling today? What are the sensations that you're having in your body? Because all of this stuff that we're reading about and learning about means nothing if we don't incorporate it into our lives, right? So just sit for a moment and allow yourself to think, to be. Okay, now that we've gotten into that, right? You're connecting with your body, your sense of self. Now, last week we talked about part 1 of chapter 7, which was getting on the same wavelength, attachment, and attunement. So we talked about the kids at the clinic where they experienced extreme traumas, and Kolk and Nina ended up doing a study called the TAT test, which was where they had the kids look at the pictures of, they looked at pictures of regular instances that were in these magazines that they found in the waiting room. So they just found these random pictures. So it's not like they're like, let me go find this super messed up picture and show it to the kids, right? So they show these pictures to the kids, and then they get these kids that are down the way at a school and they have them come over. So the kids at the clinic have really extreme traumatic experiences that they've had. And the kids at the school have also experienced some things like witnessing somebody being set on fire, somebody getting shot that they know really well. But the difference is that, well, let's be honest, the kids in the clinic are in the clinic. And one of the biggest things I learned when I was going through nursing school was that a lot of times what happens is we go and we go and we go and we go. And so we don't focus in and pay attention to the little things anymore. We don't listen and hear people talking anymore, right? We kind of shut off that part of our brain where it's kind of just, okay, I'm going to do things. I'm going to get this job done. I'm going to get this, shift done, whatever the case may be. But we don't really allow ourselves to let the other people be heard, which is what happened at that clinic. Not to say these people are horrible, but when they have to hang out with these with a whole bunch of kids that are super dysregulated that basically people send to this clinic and say, here, fix them type of situation. And that is a lot of burden to bear. Me having 3 kids was a lot of burden to bear with all of their traumatic experiences and trying to learn all about the brain and trying to figure out how to heal my own traumas in the process. I mean, I can only imagine what these people that actually work at the clinics, what kind of traumatic experiences that they've had while they're dealing with way more than 3 kids, and they have to deal with them on a continuous basis. And if they don't have a lot of training on the matter, then how can the kids even communicate, right? So I digress. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is that these kids are not really getting better. They're being diagnosed with things, they're given pills, and it's pretty much it. That's what they would talk about. They wouldn't really talk about, like, this is the trauma that they experienced. This is why they dealt with it, right? So, anyways, so imagine that, right? Which is why people are so afraid of therapy and they're so afraid of actually working on themselves. Like, oh, I'll just take care of all of my problems with alcohol or whatever the case may be, right? Or pills or any kind of drug or sex, like we've talked about before, because it's not easy. It's not easy work to do. So imagine these children that don't even have someone to teach them these things in an appropriate manner, and they're basically just telling them that you're the problem after they've experienced a man raping them or someone tying them down and beating them. And then they get sent away. Imagine what that does to their brain. And just take that in. So basically, they have them look at these pictures, both groups, and they're looking at their perceptions of the world. And if you listened last week, then you know that their perceptions were pretty gory for the kids that were at the clinic, as opposed to the other kids that were like sunshine and rainbows and everything's going to work out, right? The kids at the clinic are like, everything's going to explode and people are going to die and beat mercilessly to their death. Very, very brutally violent, aggressive. So now today, what we're going over is what we were ending speaking with about last week, which was learning whether the different worldview of normal children could account for their own resiliency, and on a deeper level, how each child actually creates their map of the world. Then, is it possible to help the minds and brains of brutalized children to redraw their inner maps and incorporate a sense of trust and confidence in the future? Now that is so much easier said than done, to be quite honest. Is it possible? Fuck yeah, it is. Anything's possible until you're dead, right? But redrawing their inner maps and incorporating a sense of trust and confidence in the future, let me tell you, that is the hardest thing to have to retrain your kids or kids in general or yourself, especially if you're an adult, right? And you never even knew that your way of thinking was toxic. You never even knew that your dark humor was so dismissive of other people's feelings and outlooks, because you're like, this is how I cope, whatever, take it or leave it, right? But really, it's not easy. It's fucking hard as shit. Like, when I got my kids back, from DCS, it was the most traumatizing thing for me to watch them be so easily triggered by everything. You raise your voice and it is the end all. And you, heaven forbid, you spank them because in their mind, they're wondering if this is the time that they're going to die. And I know that because I experienced that, wondering if this was my last chance, if one day I was going to be waking or be half conscious, bleeding out, and my kids he was going to make up some excuse and some story. And since he's such a good manipulator, my kids would be able to stay with him because he would say that I did it to myself or whatever the case is, right? And that's all I kept thinking of for a while. And if you're thinking these thoughts and feelings, you're damn straight that you're going to be thinking the same fucking things. Your kids are going to be thinking and dealing with the same things. So imagine a child trying to rewire their brains when they don't even know what the hell's been going on for the last 5, 8, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. They are completely oblivious. But we look at them as the problem instead of trying to figure out how to make the solution for them a reality. So with that, let's backtrack a little bit and talking about the studies that were being done boarding schools for young ages, for kids that were young ages between ages of 6 and 10. So they're doing these studies at a clinic at the Tavistock Clinic in London, which Coke called the famed Tavistock Clinic. I didn't even know what the Tavistock Clinic was. So I was like, maybe I should actually look this shit up, right? Evidently, it's been around since 1920. Basically, they focus on attachment, separation, and loss. So they had black and white photographs of great 20th century psychiatrists hanging on the wall going up the main staircase. I'm not going to go over all the men that were in the pictures and everything. Basically, they're very famous men, right? Now, the point is that each of these men had explored how our early experiences become prototypes for all our later connections with others and how our most intimate sense of self is created in our minute-to-minute exchanges with our caregivers. So basically, I thought that something really interesting with that is that the scientists, when it says that, they say that they're studying subjects that can be really puzzling for a lot of people or for themselves. So interesting in my aspect because according to Beatrice, most research is me search. I fucking love that because these very scientists went to school at a young age. So they were sent off at a young age and had to experience all these different things. And hi, everyone. And let me just tell you that I had to stop this episode so that I could give you all the deets on what I'm building. Now, I know I've mentioned my Confident Queen membership. That has been changed. I've been doing a lot of self-reflection. I've done a lot of interviews of other women and finding out kind of what women want from a Mel Gibson point of view, right? Because we don't really know what other people are thinking. And doing a questionnaire with a whole bunch of women, beautiful, phenomenal women that give me their problems, their anxieties, feelings of loneliness, feelings of guilt, doubt, self-doubt, pressures of wanting to do everything for everyone else. And I decided that I needed to change things. So now my tagline is your confidence, your success, and your story. And that is going to be my mantra for my BFF Society membership. Same price, $49.95 per month. And what that will include is one-on-one wholeness and empowerment coaching, live group discussions on self-awareness, self-acceptance, accountability, personal boundaries, money management, and more. You'll also get pre-recorded informational videos on self-awareness, self-acceptance, accountability, personal boundaries, life without guilt and shame, body positivity, and more. You will get pre-recorded yoga, meditation, and mindfulness videos. You'll have a bonus section with my Confidence in 7 method, your Blast Fat guide, and relationship do's and don'ts. Now, why should you join? Self-compassion reduces self-criticism, promotes emotional healing, and builds resilience. Self-awareness enhances decision-making, improves emotional regulation, which in turn leads to understanding your needs and desires. Self-acceptance increases self-esteem, reduces anxiety and depression, and ultimately gives a sense of inner peace. I want to empower busy moms to confidently pursue their goals while building strong relationships with their kids and loved ones without guilt or self-doubt, because all moms should live their own success story, whether it's relationships, careers, family, whatever it be. You deserve to have your own success story. Now, this membership is the BFF Society. Boldly face your fears while being your own BFF. I am going to be building something far more beautiful, phenomenal, whatever word you want to call it. It's called the Transformation Camp. It's a 12-week transformation camp that will start October 28th. Now, that being said, if you join the monthly membership before October 15th, you will get a 50% discount to the transformation camp. This transformation camp is going to be a 12-week camp. 4 weeks self. 4 weeks self versus others, so that you aren't easily triggered and you become this badass self-aware woman where nothing gets to you and no one gets to you. The last 4 weeks is going to be on your accountability and goals to make you become that success story that you've always dreamed about but never thought to be possible. So I cannot wait to tell you more info as I get it all ready for you. I would love to have a conversation with you and just chat about everything that your heart desires. Can't wait to hear from you. Enjoy the rest of the episode. when I really thought about that, I was like, well, that is why I started my business. Because what they say is that you generally are most passionate about the things that you want to learn within yourself. Like you're like, oh, I don't understand this, right? So I want to get into it deeper. And then you end up being like, wow, this is so fascinating. I want to tell others about this, right? If you are striving every single day for something, the passion goes into it. And so you sit there like me, I sit there and I love learning about mental health. I hated it. I knew nothing about it when I first started. I did not like it. I first started learning about it in nursing school. And I was like, what the fuck? I would cry my eyes out. I remember one time they had a lady that actually came in to the school for one of their mental health classes. And she was talking about, they warned us at the beginning, like if you feel really triggered, you could feel really triggered, just your excuse to leave if you need to. And basically she was talking about women being raped and beat and was getting into some of the specifics, right? Super fucking triggered. I was crying my eyes out. I didn't even know that it was going to affect me. I didn't even have an idea that it was going to affect me. But that was the first time that I actually sat there and was like, holy fuck, like this is overwhelming. Hearing those and being triggered in that way was the hardest thing because reliving in your mind the experiences is horrifying, especially when you've never worked on it in any way, shape, or form. And so you're sitting there and you're trying to like maintain yourself, maintain your composure. And you're like, what the actual fuck is going on? But again, going back to what we're talking about today, when you sit there and you want to learn more and more and more about this, it becomes the way that you want to teach others. So you tend to focus and do research on the things that are puzzling to you. And that was the first time I truly felt puzzled because I love learning. I was so fascinated with the human body. But mental health, I was like, what the actual fuck? You know? It's like, what? What? And then like all of this stuff has been trying to find your sense of self. And these men are sitting there and they're looking at their attachment and they're looking at their lack of attachment because they weren't even with their parents. They're out there in researching these same-sex boarding schools that are aging between 6 and 10. And as we talked about before, that's before the cutoff where they can even think critically or analyze or process. So they're sending their kids off to these schools before they're even able to comprehend what's happening. And so this is what happens to these guys. And they're like, they are trying to comprehend why they feel these weird senses of issues with attachment. So think about it. If the kids are still trying to learn their own sense of self, they're still trying to be able to critically think, these new caretakers that are at the schools are becoming their new guides. And George Orwell talks about how human beings being induced to sacrifice everything they hold dear and true, including their sense of self, for the sake of being loved and approved by someone in a position of authority. So now we look at it from a different aspect, right? I wanted to study all this stuff, and then I wanted the approval. So when I was learning, like when I went to nursing school, I would sit there and I'm like, I'm doing this. Look at what I'm doing, mom and dad. And, I didn't even want to talk about me crying in there because I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this is not good. I'm still focused on my original caretakers where it wasn't okay to show your feelings and emotions unless it was related to saying something about God. You weren't allowed to talk about my feelings matter. My hurt matters. My pain matters. And it's fascinating because I didn't know it. And the same thing for these guys. It's fascinating to them because they didn't understand it. So I know we talked about it last week, but it makes sense even more as to why we are always trying to get that approval from others. Whether we're in relationships or at a job or in school, we thrive off of other people's approval or crumble over other people's disapproval. It becomes so difficult for us to hold ourselves because we're too busy trying to make sure that someone will listen and approve what we're doing. It's all about our attachments and lack thereof, aka the attachment theory, which is what all of these studies that these men were learning. The attachment theory. And imagine these men, grown scientists, they are analyzing the way that they grew up. And that aha moment hits. I know because I've felt that. You're like, oh my God, that's what it is. That new understanding. See, it is scary to change. It is scary and seems impossible. But it is not impossible to change if you want to get to the good shit of understanding. If you can sit there and finally understand why the fuck your brain thinks the way it does and why you're not able to connect the way you want to, then why wouldn't you want to take that chance? I'll tell you why. Because you never learned that that was even a possibility. For instance, I had an aunt that was a nurse. My dad was going to be a doctor, but then he had 7 kids. But he's brilliant. My dad's brilliant. And so many times when I was younger, nursing school, that was like the thing, right? Everybody's doing it. Yeah. And then even some of my childhood friends, all of them were in nursing school. So I followed suit and I fucking finished. And I did the NCLEX exam in 15 minutes. And I was like, holy shit. I either did great or I did horrible. Obviously I did great because I passed. But when I actually started working on myself, I was like, what the fuck? Who is this person? And I would try to picture myself as a nurse. And I'd listen to all my friends that were nurses. And, I had to do a 3-year voluntary suspension of my nursing license when I was fighting for my kids. It was like a whole thing because I had to fight for my name, basically. And then I won. But because I did the voluntary 3-year suspension, I had to wait for the 3 years to get up. So the 3 years get up and I'm just thinking, I walk out of my job thinking, I'm just going to do the nursing again, right? When I did that, I kept feeling this sense of uncertainty. Who is this person? I don't even know if this is who I want to be anymore. And the more self-aware you become, the more you realize that that wasn't a part of your sense of self. There were pieces of it that were accurate, But it does not have to be who you are now just because you went to school. If we were to say that, then we'd have to say that I should go and be a saloon girl again, right? Because I did that for 3 years. I did nursing for 3 years. There are experiences that you can take. So when I sat there and I had to really think, like I had to really think because I broke my foot. And I sat there and said, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? And all I kept thinking of was how hard it was for me to figure it out, to figure out who I was, to figure out who the fuck was in the mirror. And then all of a sudden, I was like talking to someone about it, and my light just beamed out of my brain. I know that sounds weird, but that's the only way I can describe it. And I felt like I was literally on fire in like a magnificent phoenix sort of way. And I was like, if I am feeling like this, there are other women who are feeling like this. There are other women who have felt like this. Now, the reason I am saying all of this to you is because no matter what you were trained as a child, you can still build those neural pathways and create that version of you that you can feel so fucking passionate about, and it doesn't matter what anyone else says or thinks. Because you know who you are for the first time in your entire life, and it feels fucking phenomenal. No one can tell you otherwise. No one. So yes, for kids, we're going to go ahead and stop it there. And then next year, we're going to kick off, or next week, we're going to kick off with the attachment theory. But I want to leave you with this. You can sit there and fight you can fight and say that there's no point in saving you. You're already too far gone. You've dealt with pain. You've dealt with hurt. You can do that. You can damn sure do that because I've done it. Hell, I'm 36 and I didn't start figuring shit out until I was about 33, almost 34. And I was like, holy fuck, is this going to be my life? Is this how I'm going to learn? Like, is this how I'm going to raise my kids? And people kept telling me, and I kept listening to everyone else tell me that I had this problem and this problem and this problem my whole life. And people ask me now, how the fuck are you able to do all you do? If you can do this, anybody has a chance. Somebody said that to me. If you can be happy, Angela, with your past, anybody can. And you know what? You can. It hurts and it's painful. And you want to give up because it's so fucking hard. But while, yes, getting back to the beginning of the episode, the kids that have the loving families and the good atmosphere and experiences and have the support from the caretakers and their worldview is a lot brighter. That is true. But it is also true that even that child that wasn't sure if they were going to survive, or that child that watched their mother be beat, or that mother that was beat, it is possible to be your own fucking success story and to think of everything in a brighter way and to know that no matter what, You are going to change the world. Why? Because there is possibilities for redrawing your future, for recreating your path, building those new neural pathways. And guess what? Sometimes those are the most fierce, confident, badass people you will ever meet because they have that struggle, but they pushed their fucking asses through that struggle and they became the people they are today. You are that person. Those children that have been hurt can be those people. Those adults that have done inexcusable things in their own eyes, cheated, murdered, lied, beat other people. That does not have to be the end of the story. Nobody is too far gone. Nobody. You are worth every breath. You are worth every tear. And that is my sense of self. And that is how I know that it is possible to help those kids. Because I was one of those kids. I was one of those adults. And I am so happy now. And every trial that you experience, every trial is nothing compared to the sunshine that can shine tomorrow. What do they say in Gone with the Wind? After all, tomorrow is another day. It's so fucking true. Why do you think she says it at the end of the fucking movie and it's one of the most epic movies? Tomorrow is another day. And stop fucking focusing on all of the negative. Heal and accept every part of you that's been hurt and been in pain, and be that badass that you were meant to be. Next week, attachment theory. We'll be talking about Bowlby versus Freud, which, by the way, I didn't even realize that there was a difference since I'm so new to this all of it. I can't wait to get into this, okay? I was going to talk about it today, but I'm telling you, like, I was writing down stuff and I was like, dude, this is, no. Like, this is, it's going to be good. It's crazy. It's so crazy. The differences and then the arguments between the two, it's juicy shit. So I look forward to talking to you guys next week. Stay tuned. Don't forget to follow me and have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.